My girlfriend told me to call a taxi when I was in a car accident. I made sure she got the message. I'm still processing what happened, but I need to get this off my chest because I genuinely can't believe someone I loved could be this callous. Background: Laura and I have been together for 2 years. We moved in together last year, split bills, the whole domestic thing. I thought we were solid. She works in marketing. I'm a project manager for a construction company. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but nothing that seemed like red flags until now. So 3 weeks ago, I was driving home from a job site outside the city when this jackass in a lifted pickup decided my lane looked better than his. No signal, just swerved right into me doing about 70. I managed to avoid getting completely T-boned, but my car took a nasty hit on the driver's side. Spun me across 2 lanes before I got control back and pulled over. Nothing broken, but my left shoulder was screaming. I'd got glass cuts on my face and hands, and I could taste blood where I bit my tongue. The cop who responded, Officer Miller, this becomes important later, was actually really cool. Turns out he grew up in my neighborhood, went to school with my older brother. Small world. He made sure I got checked out by the EMT, helped me deal with the tow truck, all that stuff. My car was totaled. I was banged up enough that I shouldn't drive even if I had wheels, and I was 90 miles from home. Miller told me I needed someone to come get me, so I called Laura. She didn't pick up. I texted her, "Hey babe, been in an accident on I-75. I'm okay, but car's totaled and I need you to come pick me up. Can you come get me?" 20 minutes later, I got this back. "OMG, are you okay? I'm at lunch with Jacob right now. Can you just call an Uber or something? We haven't seen each other in forever and already ordered. Let me know when you get home safe." I stared at that message for a solid 5 minutes. Miller was looking at me, waiting for an answer about who was coming. The EMT was asking if I need to go to the hospital. My face was still bleeding from glass cuts, and my girlfriend of 2 years was telling me she couldn't interrupt her lunch date with her guy friend to pick up her injured boyfriend. For context, Jacob is this dude she went to college with. They've always been just friends. He lives across town. They grab lunch maybe once a month, whatever. And honestly, I never worried about it. But the fact that her lunch with this guy was more important than me literally being in an accident, that hit different. I showed Miller the text. Didn't mean to, but he was still waiting and I couldn't bring myself to talk. He read it and his expression changed. "Seriously?" he asked. I just nodded. That's when something clicked. I wasn't angry yet, that came later. I was just cold, like something inside me just went quiet and calculating. I realized I was seeing Laura's true priorities crystal clear, maybe for the first time ever. And I decided that if she wanted to prioritize her lunch with Jacob, then she should know exactly what she was choosing over. I asked Miller, "Hey, in situations like this, do you ever need to notify family members officially? Like, if someone's been in an accident?" He caught on real quick. "Well," he said, "technically we do sometimes need to make official notification to next of kin, especially if there are injuries involved. Standard procedure in some cases. Would that involve going to where they are? If necessary for the notification, yes. We want to make sure important information gets delivered properly." I gave Miller Laura's number and told him where she was having lunch. Told him I was making her my emergency contact and I needed her officially notified about the accident. He smiled, not mean, but like he understood exactly what was happening. The best part: Laura had posted an Instagram story from the restaurant not 10 minutes before she texted me. Some fancy place downtown called Meridian Bistro. She'd tagged Jacob and everything. Made it real easy to find them. Miller told me to wait there. He'd be back in about an hour. I spent that time getting my cuts cleaned up properly, filling out paperwork, and thinking about 2 years of relationship in a whole new light. The EMT ended up driving me to a nearby coffee shop to wait, which was cool of him. About an hour and 15 minutes later, Miller came back looking satisfied. "Notification has been made," he said. "Your girlfriend should be here soon." Laura showed up 45 minutes later and I could tell she'd been crying. Her face was blotchy, her makeup was smeared, and she looked like she'd thrown her clothes on in a hurry. Jacob wasn't with her. She ran up to me and immediately started with Daniel. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize how serious it was." But I could see it in her eyes. She was panicked, but not about my injuries. She was panicked about what had just happened to her. I didn't say much on the ride home, just thanks for coming when she got there, and gave her basic directions. She kept trying to explain herself, but I wasn't really listening. I was thinking about how she'd reacted to my text versus how she'd reacted to Miller showing up at her lunch. Funny how priorities can shift when there are consequences. When we got home, she made a big show of taking care of me. Wanted to clean my cuts, make me food, keep asking if I needed anything. But it felt hollow, like she was performing being a good girlfriend because she was scared, not because she actually cared. I told her I needed to rest and went to our bedroom. She followed me, wanted to keep talking about it, but I just closed the door and took a shower. Standing under the hot water, washing glass dust out of my hair, I realized something had fundamentally changed. I didn't trust her anymore. More than that, I didn't respect her anymore. The next morning, Laura was up before me making breakfast, still in full damage control mode. I ate, thanked her, and told her I was going to stay at my brother's place for a few days to recover. She didn't like that, wanted to know why, but I kept it simple. I need space to think. I've been staying at my brother's since then. Laura's been texting constantly, wanting to talk, wanting to explain, wanting to fix things. But I don't think there's anything to fix. She showed me who she is when it mattered. The rest is just noise. Update 1. A lot of you wanted to know exactly what went down at the restaurant when Miller went to officially notify Laura. I grabbed beers with him yesterday. Dude's become a friend through all this, and he gave me the full story. It's even better than I thought. So Miller rolled up to Meridian Bistro around 2:30 p.m. This place is downtown, pretty upscale lunch spot, lots of business people. Miller walked in wearing full uniform, and you know how that changes the energy of a room immediately. He asked the hostess for Laura by name, showed his badge, and said he needed to deliver important information regarding a traffic accident. The hostess got the manager, who walked Miller over to Laura and Jacob's table. They were sitting in what Miller called the prime real estate, big window table, middle of the restaurant where everyone can see them. Miller said Laura's face went from confused to terrified in about 2 seconds. He introduced himself, asked her to confirm she was Laura Blake, and then said in his official cop voice, "Ma'am, I need to inform you that Daniel Foster has been involved in a motor vehicle accident on Interstate 75. He sustained injuries and is currently awaiting pickup by his emergency contact." The whole restaurant got quiet. You know how it is when a cop starts talking to someone in a crowded place. People stop eating and start listening. Laura immediately started asking if I was okay, how bad was it, all that. But Miller said what really got him was her first question after the basic ones. "Wait, why are you here? How did you find me?" Miller, being the professional he is, said, "Ma'am, the injured party listed you as his emergency contact and requested official notification. He indicated you were unavailable by phone." That's when Jacob apparently started looking uncomfortable. Laura started explaining about the lunch, how she didn't realize it was serious, how she thought I could just get a ride. Miller let her talk for a minute, then said, "Ma'am, your boyfriend has sustained injuries requiring medical attention and has been without transportation for over an hour. He's requested that you be notified of the situation." The way Miller told it, you could hear a pin drop. Laura's explanation had basically just announced to the entire restaurant that her injured boyfriend had called her for help, and she'd blown him off for lunch. She realized it too, because she started turning red and speaking quieter. But the damage was done. Miller said people were definitely listening, and a few were doing that thing where they pull out their phones and pretend to text but are really recording. The best part, Jacob finally spoke up. He apparently had no idea what was going on. "Wait, Daniel's hurt. Laura, why didn't you tell me?" Laura had to admit to Jacob in front of the cop in the restaurant that she'd gotten my text and decided their lunch was more important. Miller said Jacob looked genuinely shocked. Jacob immediately stood up and said they needed to leave right now. Started putting money on the table, apologizing to Miller, asking for details about my condition. Laura was trying to salvage the situation, saying she was coming right away. It was all a misunderstanding. Miller gave her the location where I was waiting and told her to drive safely. As he was leaving, he heard Jacob asking Laura why she didn't tell him I was hurt, why she made it sound like I was just being demanding. Miller said Laura was trying to explain, but Jacob was just shaking his head. Here's the kicker. Apparently one of the other diners recognized Laura. Small world, right? It was someone from her work. Miller overheard this woman talking to her lunch companion. Oh my God, that's Laura from the Morrison account. Her boyfriend was in an accident and she didn't leave lunch to help him. I cannot imagine how Laura felt hearing that. When Laura picked me up later, she was clearly shaken. Not just worried about me shaken, but humiliated and panicked shaken. She kept asking how the cop found her, why he came to the restaurant instead of just calling. I didn't explain. I just said he needed to notify my emergency contact officially. The drive home was awkward as hell. She tried to explain herself, but every explanation just made it worse. I didn't think it was that serious, okay, but I texted that I was injured and needed help. Jacob and I haven't seen each other in months, and that was more important than your boyfriend's well-being. But the thing that really got to me was when she said, "You didn't have to send a cop to the restaurant. That was embarrassing. Embarrassing. Not I'm sorry I abandoned you. Not I should have come immediately." That sealed it for me. She was more upset about facing consequences than she was about what she'd done to deserve them. Miller told me that in 15 years of police work, he's never delivered a notification quite like that one. But he said situations like mine, where someone's real priorities get exposed during an emergency, happen more than people think. He's seen marriages end over less. I'm still at my brother's place. Laura's been texting constantly, but I'm not ready to deal with her yet. I'm breaking up with her, obviously. Just need to figure out the apartment situation first, since we're both on the lease. Update 2. There have been some developments that I think you guys would want to hear about. So last Monday, I finally went back to the apartment to get my stuff and have the breakup conversation with Laura. I'd been putting it off because, honestly, I wanted to make sure I had somewhere to land first. My brother's been cool about me crashing there, but I found a month-to-month sublet across town and figured it was time to rip the Band-Aid off. Laura was home when I got there, and she immediately launched into what was clearly a rehearsed speech. Started with how sorry she was, how she'd made a terrible mistake, how she never meant to minimize my accident. All the things you'd expect. But then she said something that really pissed me off. "I think you're being unfair by judging our entire relationship based on one bad moment. People make mistakes, Daniel. I was just trying to be a good friend to Jacob." A good friend to Jacob. What about being a good girlfriend to me then? I asked her straight up. If Jacob had been in the same accident, would you have left lunch immediately to pick him up? She got that look people get when they realize they've walked into a trap. That's different, we were already together. I just shook my head and told her there was no need to finish that sentence, that I was moving out and we were done. She cried, asked me to go to counseling with her, promised she'd never do anything like that again. But how do you promise not to reveal your true priorities? She already showed me what matters to her when push comes to shove. The practical stuff has been surprisingly easy to sort out. We're both on the lease until December, but she can afford it alone and wants to keep the place. Most of the furniture was hers anyway. I'm taking my desk, my tools, my books, and getting out of there. While I was packing my stuff, Laura kept trying different angles to get me to change my mind. She started with apologies, moved to promises, then tried bargaining, what if I delete Jacob's number, and finally landed on anger. "You know what, Daniel, you're being dramatic about this. It was one afternoon, I apologized. You got your little revenge with the cop stunt and now you're throwing away 2 years over nothing." Nothing. My accident was nothing to her. Then she said, "And don't think you're any better than me." Fine, maybe I messed up, but you set me up to be humiliated in public. That was cruel. I almost laughed. She was still more concerned about being embarrassed than about what she'd done to deserve it. I didn't set you up, Laura. I just made sure you got the message that your boyfriend was in an accident and needed help. The humiliation was all your own doing." She didn't have an answer for that. While I was loading my truck, my neighbor Mrs. Lawrence came out to help carry boxes. She's this sweet older lady who's lived in the building forever, knows everybody's business. She asked if everything was okay, so I gave her the basic story. Mrs. Lawrence just shook her head. Then she told me that Laura had been having people over for support all week, and it was getting loud. Apparently Jacob came by twice, which I found interesting. Mrs. Lawrence said Laura seemed to be telling everyone who would listen about how unfairly you're treating her. That gave me an idea. I asked Mrs. since I remembered Miller mentioning someone from her office was at the restaurant. I later did some asking around. And sure enough, word had spread through the office about what happened at Meridian Bistro. Apparently, it had become quite the talking point, and not exactly in Laura's favor. The final nail in the coffin came when I was loading the last box. Laura came down to make one more plea, and she said something that crystallized everything for me. "Daniel, I know I made a mistake, but you have to understand, Jacob's been going through a rough time lately. He really needed that lunch. I was trying to be there for a friend who needed me. And what about your boyfriend who needed you? That's different. I knew you'd be okay. You're strong, you can handle things. Jacob's more fragile right now." So there it was. In Laura's mind, my emergency was less important because she assumed I'd figure it out. Her friend's emotional needs trumped her boyfriend's physical safety because he was more fragile. That's not love. That's taking someone for granted because you assume they'll always be there regardless of how you treat them. I told her we were done talking and finished loading the truck. She stood there crying, but I was past feeling bad about it. I'm settled into the new place now. It's small, but it's mine, and I don't have to wonder if the person I live with will actually show up when I need them. Laura's been texting sporadically, mostly variations on "I miss you" and "please let me make this right." I haven't responded. There's nothing left to say. Officer Miller checked in on me yesterday, wanted to make sure I was doing okay. Turns out he's seen this kind of thing before. He said the lucky people are the ones who find out before they get married or have kids. I think he's right. Better to learn this now than during some future emergency when the stakes are even higher. Final update. I wasn't planning to post again, but something happened yesterday that I think you guys need to hear. It perfectly captures why this breakup was the right call. I've been no contact with Laura for almost a week now. No responses to texts, blocked her on social media, the whole thing. I figured she'd eventually get the message and move on. I was wrong. Yesterday around 6 p.m., I'm at my new place making dinner when there's a knock at my door. I look through the peephole and see Laura standing there with flowers and what looks like a shopping bag full of stuff. I didn't answer. I figured if I ignored her, she'd leave. She knocked again, then started talking through the door. "Daniel, I know you're home, your truck's in the parking lot, please just let me explain." I stayed quiet. Then she said, "I brought your favorite Chinese food from Golden Dragon, and beer. Can we please just talk for 5 minutes?" When I didn't respond to that, she escalated. "Daniel, I talked to Jacob about everything. He feels terrible about what happened. He said he had no idea I was choosing lunch over your emergency. He thinks I'm an idiot for not dropping everything to help you." Still nothing from me. That's when she played what she clearly thought was her ace card. "Daniel, I'm pregnant." I nearly opened the door just to ask what the hell she was talking about, but something made me pause. So instead, I pulled out my phone and texted my brother, who lives 10 minutes away. "Laura's at my door claiming she's pregnant. Can you come over?" He texted back immediately. "On my way. Don't open the door." Laura kept talking for another 20 minutes. The pregnancy story got more elaborate. She just found out, she was scared, she needed me. We could work through our problems for the baby's sake. She was crying, begging, saying she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. When my brother showed up, he came up the back stairs. My apartment has 2 entrances, and I let him in quietly. We listened to Laura's speech through the door, and my brother started recording it on his phone. After about 40 minutes total, Laura finally gave up. We heard her leave the flowers and food by the door and drive away. Honestly, I don't think Laura was actually pregnant. If she was, she would have led with that information weeks ago when she was trying to save the relationship. She wouldn't have saved it for a last-ditch door-side plea after no contact. I decided to ignore the whole thing and see what happened next. This morning, I get a text from my buddy Jake, who works in it at Laura's company. "Dude, Laura's telling people at work she's pregnant with your baby and you abandoned her after a fight. Thought you should know." Classic move. Create a narrative where she's the victim and I'm the deadbeat who walked away from his responsibilities. I screenshotted Jake's text and sent it to Miller, asking for advice on how to handle this. He called me back within an hour. "Daniel, this is harassment now. She's making false claims that could damage your reputation at work and in your community. You want to nip this in the bud." Miller suggested I document everything, save the texts, get witness statements from my brother about the door incident, keep records of her attempts to contact me. If she keeps escalating, I might need a restraining order. But he also had a simpler suggestion. Sometimes the best way to handle lies is with truth. "You got any mutual friends who might be hearing this story?" I did. Laura and I have several mutual friends from college, plus some couples we hung out with regularly. If she was spinning a false pregnancy story, they deserved to know the truth. So I sent a group text to about 8 people we both know. "Hey everyone, heads up that Laura and I broke up 2 weeks ago after she chose not to help me when I was injured in a car accident. She's now claiming to be pregnant and telling people I abandoned her. Just wanted you to hear the real story from me. Hope you're all doing well." Then I attached everything I documented. Within an hour, I had responses from 6 of the 8 people. The general reaction was shock, both about the accident situation and about Laura's apparent lies. 2 of them said Laura had already reached out to them about the pregnancy, asking for advice about how to handle my abandonment. Apparently, Laura had told them we broke up because I was being unreasonable about her having male friends. She never mentioned I was hurt. Given everyone's reaction to my text, Laura's story would probably blow up in her face soon. Good luck isolating yourself with your own lie. The final piece of this puzzle came together this evening. Jacob texted me out of the blue. "Daniel, I heard about the accident situation. I had no idea. I'm really sorry, man. Also, she's been telling people she's pregnant with your kid. I know for a fact that's not true. We can talk more if you want." Interesting. Jacob knows for a fact that Laura's not pregnant. I didn't ask for details, but I have my theories. I'm done with all of it. Changed my number today, blocked her on everything, and told my work security about the situation in case she shows up there. My brother's been amazing through all this, and Miller said to call him if she escalates further. But honestly, I think she'll move on once she realizes the lies aren't working. People like Laura usually find a new target for their drama pretty quickly. The whole experience has been weirdly liberating. I feel like I dodged a massive bullet. I'm moving on with my life now. Got a good job, good friends, good family. That's enough for me. Thanks for the support and the reality checks, Reddit. Take care of yourselves. Peace out.